Today is an important day in the life of millions of women across the world. Why? Today is International Women's Day. So we at the Competitive Edge, we want to take this time to throw flowers at the feet of all women in business, women in leadership, women who are serving as humanitarian, women who are being powerful parents, like my mom. So, with that being said, today is definitely going to be an interesting conversation as we look at the topic of women in project and women in different areas of leadership. So, with that being said, I have a team of dynamic personalities, including a woman. And I first of all want us to acknowledge her, a woman in the house who has been played a tremendous role in business and in project management. And with that being said, I have a dynamic team. We have Peter, and who is the brain behind Legacy Chronicle. We have Frank, an economist and a leader by profession. And we have Shivani, who is a practitioner in project and management. Well, I wear many hats, but it's such a pleasure to have each and every one of you here today. And I want to welcome all of you here today. Shivani, how are you? How does it feel to be, the woman of the moment?
Well, with you all, it's good. It's good. Yeah, it's good with you all.
It's always the
Uh,
woman of the moment with Chipani. You're
Yes.
always the center of attraction.
yeah,
Well,
man.
that's why I like to come on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning with you all.
Right.
Yeah, but what I noticed, Shivani, is that the days that you're not here, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays, these guys are not as motivated as they ought to be.
I'm later. Yeah,
It's
Talking
because
about the power of women, right?
I do agree with
Exactly.
you. I come and I look at the recordings after, and I really feel Frank is not all that bright.
very true, very
Very
true, very
spirited.
true, very
Yes.
true, very
I'll
true.
analyze it more. I'll analyze it.
Yeah, because it's
You see how Frank,
too much of testosterone in the room. So we need. So we-
you see how Frank is smiling big there. And Peter would even say to me, "This show is starting until Shivani is here."
Mm.
The power of women. All right, Shivani, I want to really thank you for being an inspiration to our group, to our community, and I love listening to you in terms of leadership and project management. And I think kudos to you and hats off to you and for the great work that you're doing. Um, but I want us to now start by having an open conversation on emotional intelligence and self mastery. The big question that I want to throw out: are women more emotionally intelligent than men? And from there, I want Frank to put our lady on the hot seat. You know, uh, Not really the hot seat. Throw
no,
some stars on her. You know what? Today's hard day,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But do you think that women are more emotionally intelligent than men? I can talk from it from perhaps an experiential standpoint. Growing up as a child, seeing my mom and dad. Well, my dad is an alpha male, right? He's full alpha male. My mom is more the emotional. She's always accessible with love and care and compassion. So, on the scale of 1 to 10, I think women win, more emotionally intelligent than men. I might be wrong, but that's just my view. What are your thoughts, my friend?
Um, Mr. Dan Goleman, he wrote on the brain and emotional intelligence, and he asked a similar question: are women more emotionally intelligent than men? But the thing about that is not really that simple. You see, emotional intelligence has four parts. There is self-awareness, there is managing our emotions, there's empathy, and then there's social skills. So there are many tests of emotional intelligence, and most seem to show that women have or tend to have an edge over men when it comes to these basic skills for a happy and successful life. And that edge may matter more than ever in the workplace, since more companies are starting to recognize the advantages of high EQ or EI when it comes to positions like sales, teams, and leadership. On the other hand, it's not that simple. For instance, some measures suggest women are on average better than men at some forms of empathy, and men do better than women when it comes to managing distressing emotions. So, whenever you talk about such gender differences in behavior, you're referring to, in statistics, we call it the bell curves. You're referring to two different bell curves, one for men and one for women, that largely overlap. What this means is that any given man might be as good or better as any woman at empathy, and a woman as good as or better than a specific man at handling upsets. Let's look at empathy. There are three kinds. You have the cognitive empathy, that's being able to know how the other person sees things. The emotional empathy, feeling that the other person, what the other person feels, and empathic concern or sympathy, being ready to help someone in need. Women tend to be better at emotional empathy than men in general, and this kind of empathy fosters rapport and chemistry. And people who excel in emotional empathy make good counselors, they're good teachers, group leaders, because of this ability to sense in the moment how others are reacting. The neuroscientists tell us one key to empathy is a brain region called the insula, which senses signals from our whole body. When we're empathizing with someone, our brain mimics what that person feels, and the insula reads that pattern and tells us what that feeling is. And here's where women differ from men. If the other person is upset or the emotions are disturbing, women's brains tend to stay with those feelings, but men's brains do something else. They sense a feeling for a moment, then tune out of the emotions and switch to other brain areas to try to solve the problem that's creating the disturbance. Thus, women's complaint that men are tuned out emotionally, and the men's complaint that women are too emotional, is a brain difference. There's an author who wrote, um, Men are from Mars, women are from Venice. Neither is better. Both have advantages. The male tune out works well when there's a need to insulate yourself against distress so you can stay calm while others around you are falling apart and focus on finding a solution to an urgent problem. And the female tendency to stay tuned in helps enormously to nurture and support others in emotionally trying circumstances. It's part of the tend and befriend response to stress. There's another way to look at male female differences in emotional intelligence. Simon Baron Cohen at Cambridge University says there's an extreme female brain which is high in emotional empathy, but not so good at systems analysis. By contrast, the extreme male brain excels in systems thinking and is poor at emotional empathy. He does not mean that all men have the male brain, or all women the female brain, of course. Many women are skilled at system thinking, and many men at emotional empathy. The psychologist Ruth Malloy at the Hay Group, Boston, studies excellence in leaders, and she finds when you only look at the stars, leads in the top 10% of business performances, gender differences in emotional intelligence, ability, that kind of abilities wash out. The men are as good as the women as good as the men across the board. And that echoes a discovery by scientists who study primates. When a chimp sees another chimp who is upset, say from an injury, she mimics the distress. That's a way of showing empathy. And some chimps will then go over and give some solace to the upset chimp, for example, stroking the other to help it calm down. Female chimps do this more often than male chimps do, with one intriguing exception. The alpha males, the troop leaders, give solace even more often than the female chimps do. So in nature's design, leaders, it seems, need a large dose of empathic concern. We coming back to Miss Sunarine, who makes the day beautiful and shining and blessed.
But Frank, just before you go into the state, just before you put Shivani on the spotlight, I must say that I like the analysis. You talk about the bell curve, the two types of bell curves, one being male, one being female. You spoke about emotional intelligence. And I do believe as we go into these type of conversation to establish, gender strength,
Mm.
it is so important to look at this from a very broad standpoint. And I just want to bring in two things here. There's what we call perception and perspective. And in recent times, I was looking at studying an ex-CIA who was well trained on these platforms. And one thing that was established is that when it comes to perception, which is highly emotionally driven, it is very much activated in women because there's a part of the brain that he spoke about that is quickly activated. If something happens, you can make a decision based on perception, which is more emotional, but to come up with a perspective is more data driven. Based on your analysis, what I would love for you to probably just share, I mean, from your research, from your studies, when we look at perception and perspective, perception is emotionally driven. Perspective, to come up with a perspective, you have to have information. All right. You have to have some degree of data that is shaping that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What it is being said is that while women can master this skill, men can master this skill, you find that men are more on the side of perspective as against perception. But from my analysis to Frank, just to add to what you may say, what I'm seeing is that the majority of the people in the world, they are very perceptive driven, meaning that you can say something, but they don't have the facts. But people believe because most people don't want to get a genuine perspective on the issue. Meaning that they're not prepared to do the research, collect the information, but they're going to listen to an emotional expression. They're going to listen to a perception and buy into that perception.
Mm-hmm.
So is it good? Is it bad? I believe it's very bad. But I would not go down that rabbit hole now. I just want to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And as time progresses, we can definitely expand on it, because we are dealing here now with the human mind, we are dealing with gender issue, and we're dealing with some of the realities of life. And in my last words, I want to say here, the majority of the people in the world today are driven by a perception, not necessarily a perspective. That's my research, that's my observation on what is being said. You can perhaps add to it, and then you can go right over to Shivani and put her in the spotlight.
Well, the my experience for growing up, well, I didn't really have the male figure in the home, so I had to learn from basically reading and experiencing what other children's how other children's fathers were. For one household I grew up in, the
No,
father
but
was.
Frank, I don't challenge that. The
Mhm,
point I'm trying to make here is that sometimes they say, listening to your argument, there's not a full equilibrium between who is more
mhm,
emotional than who.
mhm,
But the point I want to also hit home here is that both male and female have demonstrated the propensity to flow from a perception which is not data driven,
mhm,
as against flowing from a perspective which is data driven, because
mhm.
you can easily come up with perception because based on feelings. Someone do
Mhm.
something and you just come up with the feelings and you react to it.
All right.
But why have they reacted to this in
Mhm,
this way? The only way you could respond to that is when you have a perspective on things,
mhm.
and perspective is driven by data. So
Yeah.
regardless of the analysis that is being done, what the facts are showing,
Mhm,
and I can point to a whole lot of things there. People are driven by perception. So I don't think it's a female thing or a male thing.
Yeah. No. Yes. It goes across the board.
It cuts right
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. Right.
Um, but I want us to know that, can we just focus a little bit on Shivani? Let us shine some light on Shivani. Shivani, I mean, what inspired you into project management? And then I'll have Frank take over here.
Thanks, Gary.
And to be an outstanding leader in project management, because you are in you make representation in oil and gas, you make representation as a lecturer, you make representation in so many different fields.
Gary, you're asking all the questions that I put down here to ask.
No, 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 but it's all to you.
Well, I'll say Frank asked me the question according to Frank, right?
You see what Shivani does, right? She creates competition among the guy, right? But I'm gonna back off since Frank is protesting with his chest pumped high, right? I'm gonna back
Um,
off.
But something Frank said, right, that I wanted to really respond to in terms of women, are women more emotional than men, right? You'll hear this talk all the time that women are more emotional than men, and especially you'll hear it a lot. You'll hear it a lot that women are more emotional than men. Um, I don't really I don't see anything wrong in that, in being emotional, right? Emotion, showing your emotions, as you say, Frank.
mhm,
You may be in a business meeting, and sometimes things are too, stiff. Everybody, with data and data and data. But sometimes you just have to, empathy, as you said, and there may be something that is throwing off this meeting, and emotions are okay to show. A lot of times you may say you don't want to show emotions. You have to come into the meeting and keep all the emotions. And don't show your emotions. But I found as years go by, I was like that, right? Because that's a training that you are given, that if you want to be women in leadership and in business, you can't be too emotional. You
You
can't
gotta press the emotion.
yeah,
Okay.
you gotta hide those emotions, and just go with the facts and say, all right, the data shows this and the data shows that, and this is how we have to do it.
mhm.
But probably age brings wisdom, as we say, right, Gary? Age brings wisdom. And I
Yes.
Yeah, and
agree
perhaps that only work in the office. Perhaps
that
that only work. I mean, because outside of the office, I find that even men, they are driven by the perception.
Hmm.
You could be hanging out in the bar and and having a conversation with the buddy, and somebody says something about someone,
Hmm.
and you gone with that perception. All right, but all to you, Shabani. Please complete your trend of thoughts.
no, but I'm listening because it's kind of true. Sometimes it's probably, as you said, in business. You just, because you have to separate personal from business. That's what a lot of times, that's how we train, that don't bring it to the
Yeah,
office. So yes, you may
yeah,
think that Frank, you want to tell Frank something, but you wouldn't tell him in that meeting, or you wouldn't, show emotions and say, yes, Frank, yeah, but when you go outside, you will be in a different way.
yeah.
um,
But not cutting you two again, Shabani. Just supporting what Frank said. I do believe that women are more emotional being, and there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
That brings me to another point that I believe that when we start to talk of emotion, we should be talking of different types of emotion. All right. And I don't believe that perhaps I haven't done wide enough research around that or study around that. But I think that if we're going to look at emotion as a blanket type conversation, it's not going to work because women are designed to be more emotional than men.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to come home to a woman that don't have emotions. She bringing her tough corporate cultural training to me at home. I don't want that.
Mhm.
All right, so there's an incentive for women to be more emotional. All right, but I'm saying to you that there are different types. But Shabani, please continue with your trend of thoughts. I will not interrupt you any further. And
No,
Frank,
conversation as usual. As good
yeah,
conversation as usual, Gary. That woman, and I'm glad that you brought up that point, that emotions. It's okay to be emotional. You want to come into the workplace. You want to come home. People want persons to show emotions. You might see women who are so career driven as well, right? And there is not a balance, that when you come home, right? I remember having this conversation with a colleague long, long time, and he was telling me that was one of the reasons for his divorce, right? Because his wife was so into corporate culture and couldn't, when she came home, and both of them are both corporate people, right? Very high corporate people in their jobs. And when she came home, she couldn't separate it, or was so, he wasn't showing emotions, right? And he was only talking about the job. And so it got a part to play as well, right? And especially as women, it, you have to balance both, right? You have to be able to balance both. I've seen it always, and just remembering that conversation just reminded me so much of things that women have to face as well. Um, we experience the same thing as a man. Both of us, you go to the work, I go to the job as well, and we come home. I may be very frustrated. You may be very frustrated too. But is it that I can't share my emotions with you? Is it that you're gonna say, Shavani, oh gosh, forget about that. Let's go make dinner now. Or let's go buy the dinner, or what have you? Is it that you're gonna tell me that? So
Shabani, I'm laughing,
that.
right? Yeah, Shabani, I'm laughing. You know why? Because it's an honor to honor women on International Women's Day.
Yes.
Because a man, as a macho man, as an alpha male, he can be alpha at home, in the workplace, at play. It's natural. But for the woman, they're going to say, listen to me, keep your emotion at home. And
Yes,
then when you
yes.
get home, the man is going to say, keep
Do
the
that in work.
keep the
Go, go,
work
go
at
do that
work.
in work. Do that in work.
So you got that split personality, right?
So it's hard. It's
It's
really
tough
hard.
on women.
Yeah, it's
So
difficult.
we gotta honor you, right?
It's
Frank,
very
and then
difficult.
I'm gonna come to Peter. Frank, all to you, Frank.
We have to give women their flowers, their
Yeah.
crowns, because experience have shown they've gone through so much. They've had to deal with husbands who behave like teenagers. They've had to deal with children who are ungrateful. They've had to deal with neighbors who are spiteful. And so the thing about it, what men sometimes do is that they close out all that, like me. I've gone to funerals and I've seen people break down. Not that I'm not part of the funeral, but I have to be the strong one there because it's expected in my family that the men are supposed to be the strong one to hold up. And so from my generation, growing up, you were not allowed to cry because it's not a manly thing to do. Putting all that aside, today is Shivani's Day, and I just wanted to say that Shivani Sunaran is a powerhouse of expertise, a powerhouse for, of information, because I have been able to garner a lot of gems from her. Um, she's in fast facilities management, and I was reading on Shivani yesterday, and I was like amazed. I'm like a facilities management architect that thrives on helping others. Here's where empathy comes in and provides foundation for a lot of persons to upgrade themselves and promote their business. It says also to hold the position of senior administrator, facilities management, and this is special projects at UE Open Campus. And Shivani has oversight of all open campus throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and as a quality management committee and safety committee. I'm reading here her educational background includes certification as a project management professional, PMP. She has a Master of Science in Certified Application Specialist, Risk Management, as well as the BSc in Information Systems and Management. So she has to be a mathematician. Also has a postgraduate certificate in Business Administration. Currently manages Caribbean Connect, an e-commerce knowledge sharing space for artists and professionals in media, in tech, and business to connect with those who would benefit from my handwriting here, from their levels of expertise and services. She also operates as a program facility at Borderlink Resources Limited, which is training and consultancy, and consult with several local companies where she manages technology projects. At Borderlink, Ms. Sunarain delivers training in the areas of project management, business analysis, risk management, agile project management, MS Office, and Oracle Primavera. And her passion lies in how she is able to make a mark on someone's life, whether through teaching or the provision of a platform for them to make meaningful connections. For her, it's easy as living by the words of Spencer Johnson, who, in his book, The Precious Present, shows how we can focus on the present, learn from the past, and from this create the future. Shivani uses this lesson in her everyday project management life, where she's able to be in the present, respond to what is important today, learn from the past, and help create the future by making a realistic plan. And of course, through this practice, realize your purpose. This is a lot. And Shivani, I must congratulate you. I must give you honor. How has it been as a professional working in mostly a men-oriented position? How have you found, what was the relationship between you, those men? What was the setups? What was the fightbacks? Just give me a thing on the relationship you've been able to establish with this mostly men-oriented position.
Frank, you threw me off with your readings there. I was like, that. I mean, my face is just like, wow. You
I
really
did my research.
Yeah, I started to make notes. Is this who Frank talking about with some of the things? Let me make sure he's saying the correct things about me. So thanks, Frank, for that. You threw me off.
Frank,
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Frank is
You read
representing
well.
all the men here, right? That's how we honor the women,
Yeah.
right? Frank is representing all the men in the house.
Yes. So, Frank, you asked me such a relevant question in terms of facilities management. In this area, it's a male dominated. I mean, it's changing. Of course, the industry is changing. And something I remember, I think I didn't really share this with people, but the first time I was in this job, I cried in this job, because I felt as if I wasn't getting no respect. Nobody was taking me on. So nobody really knew that, Frank, right? So don't go and tell anybody that, right? That I really cried on the job, right?
Mhm.
Nobody really knew I cried on the job. And somehow, um, what made me, because I thought about leaving this job years and years and years. I was kind of like, why in this job for? Why I really frustrating myself in this job? I have to go and keep buying Estee Lauder cream to have my face, and because I don't want to look in a certain way when I go to the job. So and buy a lot of MAC makeup and things. So I spend a lot of money on makeup and Estee Lauder creams and all these creams because I get frustrated on the job, right? Frustrated all the time. So what frustrates me on the job, right? Initially, and frustrations grow, right? Frustrations grow on the job. What frustrates me on the job is that I found people weren't really listening to me. They felt as why in this job for? What qualifications I have in this job? Who am I? Yeah, why did I come to do this job? So over the years, what I had to do was to show how I could add value. How I could add value. It is still something that I have to constantly learn how to do. Show value, not learn how to do. I have to constantly do it. I think it is much more difficult for me than if it was you, right? Because people might say, "Oh, Frank looks like he could be a facilities manager, right? He can handle this, and he's working with all these people. He can handle it." I don't. I don't have, you know. When you look at me, you don't see me as being able to go and tell somebody go and change the lights. When you look at me, you'll say, "Okay, you might have a different thinking about me." I have always have to prove myself. I constantly have to prove myself. So what I have done over the years too, Frank, is just let it go. You just have to let it go and continuously know that this is what you're about. If you want to continue in it, you continue in it. What has made it even more difficult for me is facilities management is not the only thing that I do. So, it's always a balance in terms of being an entrepreneur, building businesses, seeing what you also want to do. So it's a difficult task. Something you asked me in terms of relationship with men in the workplace, and I will remember this as if it's yesterday. A gentleman asked me, he's in a senior position. He asked me, he said, "Shipani, do you have a problem taking instructions? Do you have a problem taking instructions?" And I was kind of like really blown away with that, Frank. How somebody could ask me if I could take instructions. And I said to him, I said, "No, I could take instructions, because I was really, you know, thrown off by that statement."
Mhm.
So he was looking at me that I'm not taking instructions. So um, it's difficult. I would not tell anybody it's easy. It's a very difficult thing. But what has helped me a lot, that's just only one person, as I say, Frank. Look, I have you, I have Gary to talk to all the time if I need to network and throw out an idea. There's Frank, there's Peter, there's a lot of persons that I can network with. I have a strong community. If I have a challenge, I can call them up and they'll say, "Well,
Mhm.
Shafan, do this. Yeah, okay, you think you could do this." So, what has helped me in this type of job
Mhm.
is really people. So, it come back to emotions, right? It come back
Mhm.
to emotions. I feel like, oh gosh, I can't handle this right now. This just give up this job. I don't need the job, right?
Mhm.
I have other things to do, but I don't want to do that because it will seem as if I'm quitting. And I think that's one of the main reasons. that I'm still continuing in that job, because really and truly, I may say, it's enough, But every day you learn something more. So I think I'm in the job because of more learnings. You keep learning and you keep learning. So to really sum up what I want really to contribute to this conversation is, it is a lot of challenges that I continue to face in that type of environment for 14 years. 14 years. And I have to understand what I want. I have to really try to get a community that could help me, which I have. And I think that is the main thing. And even in the job, I would have ups and downs, ups and downs. So it goes up sometimes, it comes down another time. So it's emotions with people, and talking it out. That is what has helped over the years.
Okay. Who has been that mentor or model, male or female, that has helped you to get the confidence that you have now? We always have those persons who we tend to pattern our lives after. Can you
But
talk to
I
that?
would say I have many, many, many mentors, right? In the workplace, I have a strong male figure. I'll have a strong female figure as well. That anytime I want to just trash out something, they will give me their point. Other persons will give it to me from their points. So mentors for me are not only in higher positions, but I listen to people that I work with a lot, right? And when you listen to lower level as well as higher level, your perspective changes. You learn a lot. So there are times that I may have to talk out something with somebody that is not at a high level, a higher than might be middle management, and sometimes it's even lower levels. So mentors for me is throughout the organization, throughout the community that I operate in, my circle, as we say. It's not one person. But for me, then Frank, I think my mom, I have learned so much from my parents. They were both mother and father. Really taught me that you could do anything. You really, really could do anything. Don't think that you have to just be trained in one area and learn one area. Facilities management, it was not my training in the beginning. I was not trained as a FM person. So I pivot in many different fields, and I'm pivoting again in another field as well. That's how I am. So mentors for me throughout different persons at different times. So I may call you up to talk something, where I might call Frank to talk something else. So I have people throughout, from home life to professional life. And in professional life, it will not be only higher level, it will also be lower level as well. I look at mentorship not only training me from the top, but people from the bottom I could learn a lot from. I have learned a lot from.
Do you think that the space, whether professional social space, is adequately given to women for the freedom for them to express themselves in today's society, whether it's in Trinidad, Caribbean, or internationally?
It's a work in progress. So I may want, and as you said, to express yourself, you may want to dress in a certain way, right? And I don't mean like your attire, but I would have to understand too, if I go into certain jobs, I can't wear the high heel shoes. And sometimes I get vexed for that, because I like, why you telling me I can't wear a high heel shoe, but I'll fall down here? But then you'll talk about safety and compliance as well. So expression, not all the time, because you have to, as you said at the beginning, you and Gary were talking about being able to emotional, right? So sometimes you have to pick back what you want to show. Right? Hairstyles, there's a whole conversation about hairstyles, and what you can't put it. Somebody had actually told me about my hairstyle as well. They said, Shivani, when you are speaking in like this, you should not put back your hair in a ponytail. And I was like kind of taken aback by that as well, right? But it's true. I mean, I get a lot of different persons will come and tell me certain things. I mean, I can't even tell you on the air here what I remember being in my 20s. I was teaching a class, and what someone told me.
Mhm.
really, really took me on. Really, really, really. Yeah.
Mhm.
As we say, let go of things, let it.
Mhm. All right.
Yeah.
It's a pity we don't have the time because we were just having fun. But
Yeah.
I'll hand it
Oh,
back to Gary now to
yes.
unpack.
Thanks, Frank. Mhm.
All right. Thanks to those questions, uh, Frank. I'll now uh, give put Shivani's in Peter's hands now, and
Yes.
he can then guide us. I know
Yes.
that he wants to
She's now
learn a
in my
lot
hands.
from
All right, Shivani. I'm
I'm
all
happy.
the
shocked.
guys that other.
I'm shocked that this is going in this direction. I didn't come prepared for all of this conversation, but I'm happy.
We're putting you in
No,
the
No,
but
spotlight.
we want to
Sit
celebrate you. We want to celebrate you today
We're putting you in
because
you're
your
an
spotlight.
icon.
contribution.
You are an icon in your field, right? So all these guys want to learn a thing or two, so they can perhaps take it home to their spouse or to their female community.
so that that Peter will know that when he's speaking to his wife, he's like, yes, okay, I understand. That's true. So what are you telling me this for? Yeah. Yes,
It
Peter,
is
let's
true,
go together.
and that what you said right there, it is true because as even Frank was talking about, the women, the difference between women and men in how they approach challenges and issues, and I remember quite a few times I'm wondering why was my wife asking me a question in a particular way, and because she wanted, and the whole emotion, because she's feeling the the condition of what the challenges were, where to me I don't pay attention to the feeling, how it feels, because if I pay attention to how it feels, it's going to affect my perspective of finding the solution. And so I tend just to minimize the way how it feel, and I'm always focusing, okay, so what that will lead to. So the dynamism between
The energy.
women and men in our approach, it is highly essential. It's highly essential because in what we do when we're talking about the Human Growth Master Plan, as the emotions is one of the six
Mhm.
components of the soul, and we look at the emotion as really the sensor, as the sensor, because if you can't sense what's happening inside of you and also sense what is happening around you, then there are critical information or data that is needed that is going to help to make that important decision that might be missed. And women are more because, well, going back to the scripture where God created both male and female, and each of them has equal role in the management of that sphere of project. As in your case, they were given a project, and each of them had responsibility in how they were going to see through that. But what I want to come to you with in celebrating you on Women's Day, Shivani, is who and you mentioned, and Frank was also talking about it a while ago, because we know that a lot has been said about women in the workplace. So the question that I want to ask you is, do you think enough is being done to appreciate the contribution of women in the workplace?
Now, women in workplace, especially like in leadership, right? You'll talk about being in leadership positions, you'll talk about being in boards, and we should have much more of people on boards, right?
Mhm.
That I have seen. You need to be more on boards. Um, so we gotta train. We gotta have a different type of training. We gotta be more training must be given to women, especially when you're moving from middle management to senior management. That I've seen as well. You must have a certain type of training that must be given. That you can see. So in order to progress, in order to move, you need to have training. And as you said, it's training not training in how to behave as a supervisor or as a manager or as a leader, but to understand what are some of the issues and the challenges that you may face. And remember, a lot of persons may be married and they need to be able to balance this in their work, in their jobs as well. So, to teach people how to balance. So you'll hear a lot about it as work-life balance, but a lot more needs to be in this, so that people could be very happy in their work, and then they could be very very happy also in their home lives, because one can't be without the other, right? You need both. You need both, because you'll be very unhappy if you just have one, especially if you have the other one and that one is not working well. So you want to have, and you said it, a systems thinking. I think Frank was talking about a system, and you want to look at everything as a system, because it's not only one aspect, it's everything. You may have children, and you don't want to say I have to give up one for the other.
Right.
I myself, that's what I preach. Everything, you can't give up something for another. I don't believe in giving up at all. So it has to be everything as one. It's a very difficult thing, very 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 difficult. What will help people, again, as I've continuously seen, you have to have strong support systems for this. You alone can't do it. Women alone can't say that they could do everything on their own. We love to say that. I love to say, well, oh, I could do it. No, it doesn't matter. I could do it. I can't. I really can't. I need help. I will be the first to say that. I need help. I can't do it all on my own at all. So you have to look at your whole community. So more got to be done. But, and I love that question you really asked, Frank, Peter, because what more has to be done? And when I say training, people need to understand how, if you're in a job, how the whole thing affects your life. So, probably more coaching and mentoring for women in that aspect to help them grow, not in one area, but in every single thing that they do. Recently had someone who came up to me, and they were behaving in a certain way, right? And I didn't realize, right? I didn't know it was menopause, perimenopause, and it is such a true thing for women in the workplace. So then you would know that, and you might find this woman getting on in a kind of way there, right? But because you don't know, so you might say, but she getting on emotional, that's the saying. She getting on emotional. It's not really emotional. She having a serious challenge that she's not comfortable to talk to people about. And I was happy that
Right.
a lot of people came to talk to me about it, because I felt happy that people could say they could come to talk to me about anything. And it's not only females may have these kind of challenges, it's also with males at a certain age as well, as
Wow.
Frank shaking your head too. Yeah. So it's a
Interesting.
whole system to understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that is why,
like emotions. Emotions is good.
Mhm.
yeah, I think that is why women play a very dynamic role
Yeah.
in the workplace.
All right.
But I just want to show a double standard. I may take a lot of licks for that, but at my age, I want a lot of licks because I'm prepared to fight back, right?
Martial arts.
Now,
You forget you said martial arts. Yeah.
well, good. I got a set of black belts around me too, right? So it's fine. But let me show a double standard. In marketing, we are trained to do three basic things. I mean, I'm just saying, breaking it down to three basic things. It's to be market oriented, it's to be market sensitive, and it's to be market responsive. And what that is training you to do is to be emotional to the market needs. In the workplace, we have a different equation for women and for men. Take the emotion out. But if you take the emotion out of something that you have just said, there lies a dilemma. Because if you bring the emotion in and you become market oriented, sensitive, and responsive, you're able to now treat that individual based on their circumstances. And you're not, again, running away with a perception, because you now have a perspective on what is happening. And the next thing that I want to say, and I'm going to get into trouble for this one, but I like trouble at my age. We all understand what's a slave camp, right? So I'm giving you two equations. We all understand what's a slave camp. and we all understand the role of an influencer. The question I want to throw out: what happens when we take the emotion out of the workplace? Do you get a slave camp, or do you get a influencers influencing growth and or diversification in the organization? Just think about it, right? So when you take the emotion out of the work environment, you may not get the strong influence that you want, but people may start to feel as though they're in a slave camp. And as great leaders, we have to seriously ask ourselves that question. So I open it up back. Frank and Peter, you have any more questions to throw at Shivani? Time really runs when you're having fun, but I want to
Yeah.
say it's a tremendous pleasure and asset to have Shivani on board with this in the Competitive Edge Initiative and the many other initiatives that we're going to be rolling out globally. She's a talent, she's a fun person, and I like the humor in Shivani. I mean, she's not just all academics, you know. She can take a Robin sometimes, you know, because being among four guys who you know who want to test her at sometimes, you know, but she's tough. So you know, hats off to you, Shivani.
Shivani was
But
well prepared for that because she had brothers.
Yes, I have a
well,
brother.
no doubt.
Yes, I have one
And he's
brother.
a lawyer too, right?
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for remembering that. Like you need some help or what? You need some help and you're always in trouble.
Don't worry, you'll know the moment we need help. You will be the first to know.
Right, good.
All right, guys. Any other thing you want to know about Shivani?
Yeah, the other question that I would have asked her is well, two questions actually, and then that's it. The one is what encouragement you would give to other women who are who are trying to get into that place where they want to contribute more to the success or the development of the office of the industry, and they are facing some of the challenges that you have been through. What is the encouragement? What would you say to those women?
One, find what value that you can give. Find what value that you could give. And in an organization, there will always be someone that you can speak to that will be able to assist you, right, in the direction, and they can put what we refer to as a talent management plan for you. There's always someone that you can go to. I have seen it always, but with me, um, that there is always somebody that I can reach out to that can guide me and say, well, Shabani, I think so, not so. Don't think that you are in it alone, right? In whatever industry that you're in, you would be able to look at in your organization, there would be someone. So let's do what we refer to as stakeholder management. That's what I will always look at. You plan your own stakeholder management map
Hmm.
in your organization.
Hmm.
Um, people might tell me, it's unrealistic. It's a very realistic thing to do. Map in your organization who you know can give you support. There will always be somebody in a
Hmm.
higher level position. Also, don't underestimate getting the support from lower level staff. Right,
Hmm.
a lot of times for me, what really helped me was the support from my team, which is the lower level staff, and that I'll manage, right, that I'll supervise, and I got a lot of support from them. So as a person in the industry, what I'll tell anyone, whatever organization that you are in, whatever field, look at it both ways. Come back to look at it as a system. Do a stakeholder management map. Look at who can give you support. Somebody also had asked me that point, Frank, and they said, well, what Shamani if I exhaust everything and I don't know what else to do? Because it may come, I mean, I'm talking in this nice way, but it's not always this nice way
Right.
in all organizations. You may not be able to find that person, what to do, right? That's a very difficult thing. I can't sit here and say it's easy to do.
Hmm.
Sometimes I just have to walk away. You might just have to walk away, and it's all right. Now that's a hard thing for me to say to people because I don't like to do that to myself. To walk away, I want to fight. I want to fight. I want to fight. only martial arts like Gary now, right? I want to fight. But age brings wisdom. Age brings wisdom.
Right.
You have to let it go. It's a principle in leadership. You have to know what to fight and what not to fight. But analyze it well and talk to many people. Because if
Mhm.
you don't mind, you may have the wrong perspective, huh? Right?
Yeah.
You may
True.
have the wrong perspective.
True.
And Shabani, you're perfectly correct with that statement. Sometimes you just have to know when to walk away. You
Mhm.
know,
That's a song,
I can.
Gary. You don't know the song?
Yeah, I know the song. I know the song. And I can recall only recently sitting down with a youth, and the youth was saying, "What they did was wrong, and this is what I'm going to do." But I
Yeah.
said, "Okay, you're going to tell me I'm a psychic now,
Mhm.
because if you do this is what's going to happen. But you can do this, and guess what? This is going to happen in your favor. So you got
Yeah.
two pathway, this
Hmm.
pathway, the other pathway,
Hmm.
and you're right. Experience and knowledge teaches a type of wisdom that you don't get in the classroom. And talking about that too, I think that we need to bring so much of experiential learning to the classroom to help not only women but people generally to
Hmm.
accelerate their pace of learning. And theory is only, I want to put it as perhaps 40% of the information, or I put it less, because there's a certain type of learning that takes place when you experience something that a theory cannot stand up against. But both of them should be working hand in hand.
Hmm.
Frank?
Hi. I want to say hats off again to Shivani on this International Women's Day. And my prayer, and I know that you're going to continue to be the guiding light to women of your age, older women, and even those who are on the way up and trying to choose the same path as you have. And I want to say that for those who are listening, you can also develop your EQ. According to the Forbes Coaches Council article from Carrie Coates, that says there are four main attributes that can be recognized in emotional intelligent leaders. And I'm just going to paraphrase. The first one is the self awareness of your own internal motivations and your tendencies and emotions, and both understanding and acceptance of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, emotional intelligent leaders can take feedback without defensiveness. And one practice that can help is to become aware of how you respond when challenged or when things don't go well. Then there is transparency both in your own vulnerabilities and flaws and mistakes, as well as in speaking with truth and clarity. Um, Dixon writes, the key is showing up as a whole human and being unafraid of transparency, then working toward improving relationships within an organization, within team communications, or with customers. Then being present to perceive and listen and respond to the person or situation in front of them without judgment, while recognizing the emotional needs of others at play. An emotionally intelligent leader is able to appreciate and allow others' emotions and handle them with empathy.
Hmm.
Then there is self mastery of emotional awareness. So they are not yanked into emotional reaction, but instead can more aptly choose how to respond in any given moment. And I'm the thing about menopause with women and the reaction at work. It's no different with men because men go through something called andropause,
Yes.
and they have um, muscle loss, hair loss, lower sex drive, and all those things. And for a man, having lower sex drive is like horror. So the thing about it is that when faced with that, emotionally, you're all over the place. And so the thing about it is that it's not just women that goes through the changes, men
Mhm.
also goes through that.
All right, thanks for that share, Frank. Peter, your closing remarks before we come to Shivani.
Yeah, yeah. It's in, just again to honor Shivani. I wanted to ask one more question because we look at who she is today, but what I like to hear people's um, their their backstory, because you are highly celebrated in your contribution for what you're doing in the various areas um, of where you operate in the industry in Trinidad. But what a lot of people did not see is the journey that you had to travel to get to where you are today. It didn't certainly it didn't just the gold spoon. It didn't happen with a gold spoon and you just waltz up the ladders and just came down the runway of corporate success. What was so the question is, you know, what was your upbringing like that prepared you for where you are today to be able to be in the kind of role and to successfully manage all these elements of corporate uh, and everything that happens in the corporate domain? What prepared you that you're able to efficiently manage yourself in the field you're in?
Thanks for that question. It's very true. You can't somebody can't sit down and say this is it just come like that, as you said, right? And I know you are a person like that as well, Peter. You will talk about the journey, right? I mean, you're a very spiritual person, so that you always speak like that. And what is the outcome is because of something. The outcome is because of something. And definitely life is like that for me. It really started, as I said, with my parents. My parents are persons who will push education. There was nothing, I mean, I came from a middle class family, right? That believe in working. And you train us to get a job. However, my mom is in business as well, right? We will call it in our time shop, right? So she runs shop. That's the whole life. That's what she did as a business person. And we underestimate the power of that, right? We
Hmm.
underestimate the power of a lady working in a shop and selling to people, right? Because that's
Hmm.
what it is, right? That was the basis of it. You're selling to people. And I learned about business there. And as you were saying, I think once upon a time, but it was yesterday or the day before, Frank was talking about his grandmother and his grandmother always having money. For emergencies, they always have money. You don't know where they get any money from. And his mother, they always have any money. You don't know where they get any money from. So there are so many learnings that you learn, you look back on. And to me, that was a good teaching for me that my dad would have worked in organizations. He came from he was a police officer, worked up himself as prosecutor and stuff, police prosecutor we would call it. And my mom ran shop, so that's how we came from a very middle class. But when persons look at me, they think that I had so much, but I did, right? Because of my parents. My parents, they made us like so special. Anything, everything you could have. And people would look at us if we came from a very, very wealthy home. But I guess wealth is all about it's not
Hmm.
only about money, it's everything. And I think that's a very strong thing to have. So definitely I will tell people parenting goes a long way. Um, and I think that is how I have become then frank that it's not only business, it's not only in a corporate world, because I see business as very, very, very important. And I believe that is the direction that I will eventually just totally become more in as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a creator, because I believe more in creation rather than
Hmm.
maintain. I always tell people that, right? That's who I am. I'm a creator. I'm not a person to maintain. I just end up into this facilities management job that I have something to prove. Really have
Hmm.
something. But still, and that's probably why I didn't really. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to know that to speak really frank that it has a lot to do with parenting as well, and
Hmm.
strong parenting that you can
Mhm.
do anything. And as I said, I believe that I can do anything. I you know not only in projects in Trinidad, I teach international. It's good. I don't consider myself only as a Trinidadian, but we could do anything. We could do anything.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me that opportunity to speak on that. Peter.
Welcome. You're welcome.
All right. With that being said, I want to also just give a big shout out to all the great mothers in the world. And we celebrate International Women's Day with you. I want to say a big shout out to my mother. She's also a gem among gems and the best mother figure the world has ever known. I want to say hello to my wife also. I do believe that she is the best wife figure the world has ever known. And, we all have these beautiful, talented, exceptional women in our lives. And I want to all men treat women with respect, with love, with care. They deserve it. Women play a tremendous role in cradling this world. It's a woman that's going to take you when you're a baby and she's going to nurture you. She's going to pour everything into you. She's going to make you become a man, and then you're going to tell her she got to go, don't let me go here, right? But women cradle this world, all right? So they have a special role to play in the world. Let them play it. Men, you have a very unique role to play in this world. Kudos to you, my friends. So with that being said, I trust I would have said it all. And today has been a special day. All because of
give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Shivani.
You all just shocked me here today on International Women's Day. I was taken aback. So thanks so much for that. And I just want to say to you all, it's always a privilege to come on Competitive Edge. I have learned so much. I think this is 60 episodes or something. Or how long now are we in this?
72.
The amount of notes that I have taken from this, it's amazing. So Competitive Edge is a series that I look forward to, and a lot of persons, reach out to me and they said, Shivani, what are you doing Competitive Edge? So it's something. It's a great conversation because people they want it. So thanks for you all for the opportunity to also contribute to something that is great, that I know is just going to go all over the place. So thanks
got it.
Right?
All to you, Shivani, and do continue to enjoy your special day. Make sure you have fun. All right, and today. With that being said, I want to thank our audience who is viewing this program from across the world. And thank you for taking the time out for being here with us today. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. All right. And do have a great weekend ahead to you. Today is Friday. The normally say, thank God it's Friday. So make sure that you have a great weekend ahead of you. And to you guys, thanks for being here. And today we could have been anywhere else, but you guys decided to come out here and celebrate Shivani, and by extension, celebrate all women who have been making great contribution to the world today. So thanks to you guys, and see you guys tomorrow.